Flores and I am doing Chapter 5 using authentic text to learn new words and develop fluency. So, the main focus on this chapter is to explain why authentic, predictable text with familiar, dependable context provides a rich resource for word learning, enhances fluency, and to give examples of these texts. So, it explains to you what a predictable text is, authentic, and then it gives examples of these. What is easy to read? So struggling readers definitely need access to texts that they can easily read. Some believe structure and control facilitate learning, which are decodables, yet these simple language patterns are usually unfamiliar to children because they do not represent the natural oral language they hear in daily life. Teachers even agree that they were stilted, worn, and flat. There was a study conducted by Mesmer in 2010, and it showed that children who read text with more natural language patterns read more fluently than their peers who read decodable text. Characteristics of pattern books and other authentic predictable books include distinct language patterns, such as naturally repetitive language, accumulating events, and use of rhythm or rhyme. These patterns are an enjoyable way for children to play with sounds, words, phrases, and sentences. Types of authentic text, pattern books, song, finger plays, and other rhymes, nursery rhymes and poems, environmental print. So we're going to talk more about those. Easy for children. The pattern books are easy for children to read quickly because the children quickly catch up on the patterns. Usually involve repetitive language, repeating or cumulative episodes. Many are appropriate for older, struggling readers, those of us that are in the upper grades, English language learners, and beginning readers. So those three groups. Rereading pattern books first with support and later independently is important for all three groups of readers. So the I do, we do, the you do. Many come in big book format, so after reading whole group, students could use the copies of little books to read independently. Teachers, along with their class, can create their own big books and provide opportunities for fluency and comprehension along with a sense of ownership. So they can have the big one and then with the little one so they can continue practice it and they can also create their own. Most teachers already use the songs in the classroom. So now we're talking about songs. They use the finger plays. Teachers can make text copies of these and use them for instruction. Print happy birthday song, leave name spot blank, and students can create name cards. So that's where you're including the text part. Teacher can use the text of the song to help children learn new words. Finger plays can also be used. Teachers can create large version of rhyme for children to read. Generic charts containing most of the stanza can be prepared, and words can be used to differentiate stanzas. So I put an example of they enlarged the stanza and then they left the number word blank because that's what they're focusing on for them to learn the number words. So it's just basically, we always use songs. I used to teach first grade, but now you're going to add the text so that it includes the reading part, not just the oral part. Okay, nursery rhymes and poems, excellent choices for authentic, predictable text. Short poems with strong rhythms and clear rhymes are easy for children to read. Quite useful for building students' competencies in both phonics and fluency. Easy to read poems can be found in most children's anthologies. Teachers and students can write their own rhymes and poems. Poetry should be a daily routine in classroom. So they promote the poetry for they promote it for fluency. Environmental print, great source for incidental word learning because of children's strong interest in it. Children begin to recognize print in real-life contexts such as road signs, fast food logos, and packaging on toys. To recognize this print, children attend to shapes, colors, and logos as well as print. The activities that they gave sort items from a newspaper and magazines. So they would sort, all of these are drinks, all of these are sneakers, all of these are cereals, etc. Teachers can insert pages into theme books that contain the words alone in standard print or type format and have the students guess which logo. So they would just put the word like McDonald's and the kids will which logo goes with that. Labels, lists, schedules, directions, messages. Basically what we find in the class should also foster the word learning. Show children rather directly about the functions of writing and the value. So here comes the relevance, like it shows you how does writing have relevance in the real world. So we have using authentic texts. The shared book experience, which just means like an adult reads with a kid. In the classroom, you have to enlarge in these texts so that the kids can see them. And you can also prepare smaller versions of text with room for illustrations. Need to be read several times. Teacher reads and then read quarterly and finally give opportunity to read independently. After learning the text, children can begin to focus on sentences, phrases, words, letters, and letter combinations. Children see the value of what they learn about words and sounds because the new knowledge can be easily related back to the text and transfer is facilitated. So, this this calls for a top bottom approach. So they start from like practicing text, and then the kids should start recognizing they practice the whole test, and they should start recognizing the smaller units, which it was talking over here: sentences, phrases, words, letters. So they don't go the traditional route that we usually go, which is the let's start with the letter name, letter sounds, and then create syllables and words. They go top bottom. Okay, using authentic text can include guessing games, word sorts, copy changes, other independent activities. So, guessing games and word sorts can use guessing games to focus on the conventions of print and other aspects of word learning. Focus children's attention on the parts of written language, lines, sentences, words, letters, and phonic elements, which I get again. It goes back to the top bottom. Easy way to differentiate instruction. Children can use markers or circle or underline their responses to these questions on a second copy of text. Point or use whoppers, the fly swatters. Children's word of interest can be added to a student word bank. So word sort activities, example using a poem, then having the students sort each A word into categories. So like long A, plate, baby, the long A, the A, pan, frazzle, and then other sounds of the letter A. So we have copy change, and basically, copy change is the kids taking like a text, because these are predictable, right? So they have those patterns, and then creating their own version of it. So it can be like from poetry, it can also be songs, it can be even they can turn a text like into a script for a play. Um, so children use the author's copy as framework, but change it to reflect their own ideas. So they read the book several times, again, that this is promoting the fluency, and eventually ask, what does the author do over and over again, and write down these ideas on the board. Songs can also be used. The original text can be used as a scaffold, but at the same time, attend rhythm, rhyme, and meaning. Copy change activities encourage careful reading and listening. So I like this part, that the kids have to pay attention, so that children can discover, appreciate, and use authors' words or language patterns. Students find it fun and satisfying. All this promotes fluent expressive reading. So, other independent activities, children can illustrate their copy, change text, which is the one that we just talked about. Type their own text, one sentence per page, to make their own books. All instructional text should be available for children to reread. So instead of having like other books, you would have books that they created, the language experience approach that they created. They take great pride and they're interested in reading the text that they created again, foster positive attitude toward reading, and help children develop good concept of themselves as readers, acquire sight vocabulary, practice word recognition strategies, and develop fluency. So again, they go from the top bottom, so this is how they practice their fluency, which is different to how we are used to, I think, at least myself. So just good books. The chapter does give like a list of of websites, of reading journals, and one of the reading journals is the Reading Teacher, the one that Dr. Almaguer suggested to us. It gives a list of award books. That way, those are good ways for us to find good books. It also says that you can ask media specialists, librarians, and veteran teachers to give you suggestions on what are good books for the kids. Okay, text and phonics dictated text. So the main reason for selecting books should be that they are engaging and will lead students to want to read more. Exercise phonics and word study strategies in real life and satisfying context. There are several books that focus on particular vowel sounds, working with ELLs and other bilingual series. So they give the list of those in the book too, of the ones that you could use to work with the ELLs, the bilingual ones, and the ones that have series. The language experience approach, begin with an experience, individual or shared. Children can dictate a text about the experience to a teacher while she transcribes. So that's why I put the picture of the teacher. The kids are dictating it and she's transcribing it. Contain a variety of phonic and structural word patterns derived from natural language. Useful for focused instruction and practice in decoding skills and strategies. Okay, text and reading fluency. Fluency is the bridge between word recognition and comprehension. All readers are more or less fluent depending on the nature and difficulty of the text being read. So this was interesting because it's like if they were putting you to read something on astronomy, on the space. We probably wouldn't be fluent, even though we are fluent. We consider ourselves fluent readers, but we don't have the background knowledge, and plus there are words that we just don't know what it's talking about. Students read not be overly difficult, so the material shouldn't be very difficult. Predictable stories and text series around the theme. Those are the books that they're suggesting us to use. With minimum difficult words and grammar not too long, repeated readings advocate for fluency development. Use short text for the fluency. Performing poetry orally provides the teacher with a real reason so that reading to the audience will be flawless and meaningful and is ideal for building students' fluency. So they do say that poetry should be used for fluency. Like the kids performing it, it's going to give a real reason for them to want to practice it. Chapter 13 is going to be student creating text and word learning. So I put an anchor chart of this language experience approach, and I thought it was a very good way to explain it. So the teacher has class do a planned activity. That's the experience part. Number 2, following activity, students write notes and share with teacher. Teacher records responses. So here it's more like they're talking and the teacher's recording. Class can quarterly repeat each sentence, copy down sentences, and add illustrations. So that's the reading part. And they talked about it, adding illustration to it. The text can be used for follow-up activities, listening, reading, and close activities. So that's an anchor chart that I got on the side, but I thought it was a good explanation. Okay, what is LEA, language experience approach, and the basics? Students' experiences are represented first by their oral language and later re-represented or converted to written language by the teacher and another scribe. It becomes reading material that they can practice what they write. Feature attention to the inner relationships among oral language, written language, and readers' thoughts. Transform children's oral language into written texts that can be read and used as springboard into word study. Can be used for struggling and beginning readers, but it can be used with middle school, high school, college. So basically, it's like anybody can use it. So the 6 steps. You provide a stimulus to get that experience. Then you initiate discussions where you're talking about it with the kids. When discussion seems complete, you begin the dictation. After dictation is complete, reread it out loud. Draw students' attention to interesting words. Make individual copies of text for further use. So those are the simplified steps. I have obtaining dictations. Teachers must plan the classroom experiences. that will lead naturally to dictation. Encourage children to express their thoughts and share their ideas with one another, but you do not tell them what to think or to say. You encourage summarizing. You record the comments verbatim. So however they say it, you record it. You rather than making editorial changes or even suggestions to maintain children interested in language that is their own. Could use later for revising and editing. An example is given of a teacher who wanted her students to use color words, number words, and names of parts of the body by making a creature out of large, colorful, interlocking blocks. So then the students, they didn't use the color words. They used number words and they used body parts. But the teacher can later on go back and now I want them to focus on color words. Can use literature as a stimulus. Can have students create riddles. Good strategy for ELO students preceded by conversations and social interactions that support new language learning. Dictations can also occur with individual students with the benefit of bringing the child's unique interests to the classroom. So, where is it? There was a really good activity that they talked about the teacher that with the riddles that it was called Who Am I? And basically they created their figure, right, their silhouette, and then the kids had to do like a riddle to describing them, and kids had to guess who is it. So I thought that was a pretty neat activity to do it with the kids, and I'm sure it would be very like engaging for them. It's just going to be a different way to practice creating those riddles. Using Leah text for extended reading and word exploration. Dictations can be used like any other reading material. Can be read and reread either silently or with a partner. Teachers can make dictation notebooks. Teachers can create their own version with the same content but different wording. Teachers can develop questions to accompany. So you can make text. You can make questions so you can question them on what they created. The language experience approach. Can make story puzzles by cutting dictated text into sentences and asking students to reassemble the sentences in a way that makes sense to them. So I think that would be really good. It would be the sequencing or the, cut it off and it needs to make sense. All these activities involve reading and rereading texts, which can help with sight vocabulary and developing fluency. Helps beginning readers learn about the conventions of print, can serve as diagnostic function. So you can be seeing like who knows this, who doesn't know this, etc. The informal assessment. Copy change. Creating dictations writings with the same format or predictable features. Children's literature poetry can be an effective springboard for dictation or writing. After reading several fairy tales to the class, discuss and subsequent discussion can focus on common elements. So students can use these dictated notes to create their own tales by changing characters or updating the plots. Predictable literature has a readily recognizable pattern that children can easily use to create their own version. So after reading Brown Bird, students can write or dictate using the same format to write descriptions of themselves. So basically, copy change is just like, I'm getting this text that is predictable. This is what the author keeps repeating, and I am gonna do another text with his format, what he kept repeating, but I'm gonna add my ideas into it. An instructional routine developed by Smith, Walker, and Yellen that they give. So shared reading of a predictable book. Teacher and students first focus on rhyming words from the book. Focus on rhymes they represent. Rhymes are listed and children dictate a rhyme from the book to be used as copy change. Students create and read their own books. So that's an example of a routine. Okay, so now I am going to go ahead and model copy change for you all. And the way that you would do copy change, first of all, I am going to read it to you. So, boys and girls, purple cat, what do you see? Green frog, what do you see? I see a purple cat looking at me. And I skipped the other part. Let me see. I see a white dog looking at me. Let me try it again. Purple cat, what do you see? I see a white dog looking at me. Green frog, what do you see? I see a purple cat looking at me. So now, boys and girls, there are some things that are repeating. Do you all see what's repeating? And then the kids would, oh, miss, he said green frog again. Okay, yeah. But I mean repeating from page to page. They did kind of something similar. What do you think? Oh, miss, well, they have, what do you see? And they have, I see, looking at me, they have it twice. Okay, so we're getting closer. But what, is that the only thing that repeats? I mean, purple cat, green frog, green frog. What do they have in common? Because they are repeating this. And somebody would come up, well, miss, they have a color word and the name of an animal. And then again, they have a color word and the name of an animal. So here's where I would discuss it with them. And then I would say, yes, you are correct. It does have the name of an animal along with a color. So over here, I would have something big to display. So the kids were able, we discussed it, right? First I read it to them, then we discussed it. Now I am ready to write down that pattern. So what did you all say was repeating? Miss, okay, we said that it would be a color and an animal, that same color and the animal, and then the word, what do you see? So it would be color, animal, and then that same color and that same animal, and what do you see? And then at the bottom, I see a, and again they're adding the color, but this is, I've done this with the word problems in math. So I would say color 1, animal 1, and then color 1, animal 1, and then over here I would need color 2, animal 2. And right now I'll put in my computer closer so y'all can see. So the word looking at me also repeats. So this would be one page. And then again it repeats. Color 1, animal 1. What else was in girls? Again, miss, it would be the same one. Color 1, animal 1. Okay, boys and girls, the word what do you see that all the pages have. And then in the bottom, boys and girls, it would be I see a color 2, animal 2, looking at me. So they're the kids. They helped me discover what was the pattern. We talked about it, and I put it over here for them. You see it? Color word. It's kind of like sentence stems. So now they're going to go off and they're going to create their own. Now this, I would say working in a first grade classroom. I'm sure with older students, you could even just add the, color 1 is an adjective, but it would be a color adjective and then a noun. So those are ways that you can add those grammatical elements. So then the kids would go off, they would create it, and then we could switch. Okay, now you're gonna illustrate to make them comprehend. You're gonna illustrate Juan, you're gonna illustrate Miguel. You switch, and that would be the copy change. And this can be done with poetry, even with fairy tales. They gave the example, so the kids have to analyze. It's just this would be for lower grades, maybe the fairy tales for bigger kids. So they would have to analyze, like we're gonna change the characters, or we're gonna change the plot. They use the author's framework, basically. Whatever repetitive thing that they're doing, we're going to do it, but we're going to switch certain elements. Okay, using a predictable text. So here you would I'm sorry. There was a different activity, but I don't know what happened. But basically, what that other activity would include, let me pick myself, it would be the authentic book. So I would have a written script of Brown Bear, which I do have, and I would question the kids, where is the page stop? Then I give them a poster so they can illustrate it. So first I would be like, okay guys, I'm going to read something and you're going to tell me where that page break is at. So it would be like, brown bird, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me. Red bird, what do you see? I see a yellow duck looking at me. Yellow duck, what do you see? I see a blue horse looking at me. So where do you think it stops? Well, I mean, and usually I think for the kids maybe through a think aloud will work. Well, what is repeating? They say the same animal, brown bird, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me. Now they're starting with another animal. Red bird, what do you see? And again, it ends the same. I see a yellow duck looking at me. It starts with another animal. Yellow duck, what do you see? I see a blue horse looking at me. So I think it's gonna end at looking at me. So it has like the animal and then looking at me stops. Red bird, looking at me stops. Then what I would do is I would, with discussing with the students, I would write down each page. Then the kids would go off and illustrate it. So that's using a predictable text. That's one of the strategies that I chose. And they gave that one where the kids have to help you. Like you've read it several times. Okay, now guys, help me where each page goes. And then you are going to illustrate it for comprehension. The activity that I added that is my own would be Reader's Theater. So I provided the script of a Reader's Theater that I found. And Reader's Theater is basically for comprehension. So the way that I use it in my class is first I read it, or I have CDs that read it to them. So first, I would read it to them. So look at this. I found this really old paper. We cleaned out our attic and it was folded up in a coat pocket that belonged to my grandmother. Let me see. It's got the word treasure scrawled on the back. Treasure? Maybe it's a treasure map. It's not a map. It looks like a poem. Let me see. Maybe it's worthy of a bunch of money. Yeah, I heard people like pay $1 million for old books and maps and stuff. Maybe it's a primary source. What's a primary source? An original document. We learned about primary and secondary sources in history. It looks like it's 100 years old. I think it was torn out of a book. Look at the jagged edges. Sharp observation. We should read it out loud and see if we can figure out what it is. So I would continue, like I did, reading the text if I don't have a CD, just so that they can listen to how it sounds. After that, they would be assigned, no, they would echo read with me. I have them echo read, I read, you read. But they have to read the same way that I read, with expression. Then I give roles. We do echo read, we do choral, then I give roles, and they go to their teams. So what they would do is they would be in teams I used to number them, you're this number, you're this number. All the number fives are BJ, all the number fours are Consuelo, and then go create a group up from 1 through 6. So, or I would just make the group for them. And as a teacher, I'm going to be monitoring it. But what I make sure to discuss, because I'm using it for the sense of comprehension, like how would you enact it? Like the first one. Let's see. Look at this. I found a really old paper. We cleaned our attic. So of course I would tell him, well, what can you visualize that Eli is doing? Miss, pues he has a paper, miss, and he's showing it to the kids, right? Okay, so I would have to read it like that. Look at this. I found a really old paper. We cleaned out our attic and it was folded up in a coat pocket that belonged to my grandmother. And then BJ, let me see it. It's got the word treasure scrawled on the back. So, boys and girls, what do you think BJ is doing? Because he's taking the paper away from him is, like, oh, let me see. It has the word treasure. And then Daniela and Katrina, treasure. So, how do you think Daniela and Katrina look? Treasure. They look excited. BJ, maybe it's a treasure map. So, again, probably what did BJ do? Well, miss, he probably got it again. And that would be the kind of discussion that I would have with them to help them, because the kids are just going to be reading, but I want them to read with expression, like if they're acting out for someone. So that was the strategy that I included. I hope you liked my PowerPoint. I hope it helps you to better understand the concept of authentic text for fluency, and it helps you understand the language experience approach. So thank you.